Welcome back to another episode of the Thriving Inside the Thin Blue Line podcast. I'm your host, Monica Crawford, and we are going to roll right into this episode today because I am pumped. I have Bridget Truxillo back on the podcast. She did an interview with me, I don't even know, 12 or 18 months ago, probably, before I rebranded the podcast. And so I'll link that if anyone wants to go back and listen to that. Um, but Bridget, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself and then we'll roll right into it.
Yeah, my name is Bridget Truxillo, and you said that perfectly. You and I go way back at this point. Um, um, I am an attorney. My law firm is called Lady Law Shield, and I'm also a former deputy sheriff. So my law firm, and when I was a deputy sheriff, I started out on patrol like everybody. I did undercover narcotics, and I was also on the SWAT team. And to part of my story is that because I was on SWAT team, I left law enforcement. And fast forward to today, my law firm, I specifically focus my efforts on employment law related matters for law enforcement and first responders, because I want those of you out there to have the help that I couldn't find or didn't know where to find. Because I know that you feel like you have no one to talk to, that you're being thrown under the bus. I know Monica knows what I'm talking about because I've read her book and we could swap stories. So yeah, I specialize in helping law enforcement officers and all first responders be able to fight back when they feel like their department's coming after them.
Yeah, I like that term, fight back. That's scary. That's
It
scary to
is.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, my plan for this, and for anybody who hasn't snagged my book, Thriving Inside the Thin Blue Line, my story is has a lot of challenges in it, as does Bridget's. And I wanted to walk through my challenges that I experienced and then allow Bridget to respond on how she would handle that from her side of things. My hope is to give others a platform to be like, hey, this is me too. Like, this has happened to me. And essentially, hopefully, this is like a free, she does free consults, by the way, but hopefully, this is like a free consult to anybody that's like, yes, I have this problem. Like, maybe I should contact her and ask a few more questions. Because within my coaching business and 50 Fierce and Fit, anybody who comes to me that has an issue, I'm like, go to Bridget. Go
Mhm.
to Bridget, go to Bridget, go to Bridget.
Yeah.
Because she has the knowledge and the experience in many, many ways to handle these things. And even if she can't help you, like I know you'll at least give somebody a starting place or like some good advice to do something about their
Yes.
issue.
Yeah.
So starting early in my academy experience, I got injured inside of training.
Mhm.
Had a torn rotator cuff that they didn't know was torn until essentially the end of a 26-week academy. So I went through a lot of mental and physical pain essentially throughout 26 weeks because I had this injury. And throughout the process, I realized that they had gone against doctor's orders on 5 different occasions under this work comp claim. And they had also slapped light duty on my check when I was not, in fact, on light duty. It was just like Band-Aid here, we're going to put her on light duty, when in fact, we were not following light duty orders.
Mhm.
So that's like quick hit. And I know you read the
Yes.
book, but how would you handle that scenario?
Okay. That's a lot. And so
We're already off the
I
deep
want
end.
to say, so when people call me and they're like, well, here's my thing. And then when they call me and I can say, look, you are facing a lot. And I feel like when I tell people that is it gives them so much relief to know, oh, and really like, oh my gosh, I knew it. Like, and what I tell people all the time is, no, you're not crazy. No, there's nothing wrong with you. And, and don't even start to think maybe it's me. It's not them, it's me. And I'm going to say to you, screw you, that is not true. Shut up. Stop telling yourself that. I did it too. I'm sure you did it. You're like, I can do this. I can do this. Okay, tomorrow's a new day. You're like, I'm gonna just put one foot in front of the other. Oh my gosh, this hurts so bad. I'm in so much physical pain because I'm hurt, but I can do this. Just one more day. I could just like, oh my gosh, Monica, I'm gonna go back to you and like shake you on the shoulders and say so many things. Number one, okay, first of all, I don't practice in workers' comp on purpose because number one is it's very state specific. I live in Texas. I'm actually licensed to practice in 4 states, but I intentionally do not practice in workers' comp law because it's very intricate. It's very different state by state. I don't even want to learn all Texas workers' comp compared, not to mention the other three I could do it in, but it's also versus employment law where that is based upon federal law and I can help and advise and consult across the country on those things. But also because is what you're really workers' comp is to try and make you whole. It's not something to get you $100,000 because they screwed you over. There is workers' comp retaliation and I mean even discriminate. They can fall under like an EEOC claim if they are treating you differently because you filed a workers' comp claim. So that can fall within my wheelhouse. But number one is if you have a workers' comp issue, and if at any point you find out that your department is not following those orders and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, like here's let's say maybe you did one of the things that you maybe might not do right is some workers' comp systems you can go to any doctor you want and then they just fill out a form for you. Some worker comp systems, so some states, meaning require you to go to their doctor. And so you might maybe mess up that on the front end, but you can fix that because as long as you're putting it on record in a medical document that says this is work related, then because you do have a timeline in which you have to report those things. Um, there's just something also called sort of this is a legal term. It's called the discovery rule. So you get hurt and maybe you realize like, oh, I don't know, it's this thing, and then you realize, oh no, this is because of work. Like you can say, I just discovered, or my doctor just informed me. Like maybe it's an exacerbation. Maybe you develop hypertension. Hypertension is something that you don't know you have it necessarily until a doctor tells you. Maybe you are suffering the symptoms for 2 years, but until a doctor tells you, like they can't then come say to you like, oh no, that started happening 2 years ago. You can't. That doesn't apply. So I know I'm saying a lot of things, and I hopefully I'm not talking too fast. But another reason I would say workers' comp is important. So okay, so if they're not listening to what the doctors say, then it is up to you, and that's what I will tell you about workers' comp. There are no busy little worker bees behind the scenes doing everything they can to make sure that Monica gets every single thing owed to her in workers' comp. Now, that is not because they hate you. It is not because they're trying to screw you over or rip your entitlements or your rights away from you. It's just people. People get distracted. They're really only focused about themselves. And also, they're not doing that intentionally to you. So it is up to you to track every single thing in the workers' comp system and make sure you're getting what you are owed. Second thing I'll say is it costs money, but depending on the extent of your injury, you really should hire a workers' comp attorney to help you because they understand the system, they know where to fight back, and you're gonna get more money with them than without. Number three, you must file a workers' comp claim because you will not be in this job forever. You must take care of yourself. And when you get out of the job, you want to be able to stand upright, move your arms, lift your hands, arms over your shoulders, and you think, oh, I screwed my shoulder up, but that's okay. And you're 24 when it happens. But when you're 64, you might not be able to do this. And this is like the longevity test. When you're 80, you want to be able to lift your hands over your head. My aunt can no longer, she has no shoulders. She can't move her arms at all anymore. It's like, I don't want that. What can I do now to take care of myself so that I can function at 80? I'm old enough to say that part of my workout goals is just to be in shape when I'm 80. Anyway, but importantly, I tell cops all the time is if you get injured on the job, you must report that as an on-the-job injury, even if you're afraid that means it might pull you off a SWAT, pull you out of the academy, sideline you for whatever reason, because you will not be in this job forever. If you don't report it when it happens and you miss the window and to do that, then you can never report it. You can never claim it to be a work-related injury. So, many reasons to make sure that you're protecting yourself for workers' comp. Okay, that's that. Another thing you said. If you find out that they are intentionally not following doctor's orders, those become separate state issues, federal issues, and like you got to work like a workers' comp. So there's three ways you can really kind of come after that. Um, oh, and there was a third thing. Oh, and the light duty. Oh my gosh, the light duty thing. So that is straight up discrimination. It's workers' comp retaliation. You can file that with the EEOC. You can file it with your state. Either way, usually if you file with the EEOC, you can dual file with your state, but you're putting them on notice. It might also be a NLRB, National Labor Relations Board wage claim if they're docking your pay for in any way for that. I mean, there are so many different. So that's when people call me, even if they don't hire me. At the end of the conversation, I say, "Oh, no, no, no. There's a lot you could look at here," because I feel like that makes you know that, like I said early at the beginning, no, you're not crazy. You were right. You had a feeling. You might not have been able to put all the labels on it that I can put on it, but I'm telling you, they're wrong. They are treating you wrong. It's illegal, and you should put them on notice. And then and I know we can get into this a lot. I don't want to just keep on talking and talking, but one of the most important first steps, and this is when this is happening to you, is you must report it. You must put somebody on notice. And I'm not saying like go torch the front door with fire sticks. I'm saying like in an email to the right people, say, listen, I want to put you on notice. Here's what the doctor said. Here's what you did. This is not legal. We need to make some corrections. You put me on light duty. I'm not so, although you're not letting me be on light duty, either don't put me on light duty, give me full pay, or do we need to address whether or not do you need to be on light duty, but they're not actually letting you be on light duty. I would be willing to guess that in your situation, that was probably a gender discrimination issue as well. Like, are they letting the guys have a light duty legitimately changing their work, but not you? And so there's a lot of questions in there is can you find examples as close as you can, apples to apples, of where that was different for somebody different than you, white or black, men versus women, Christian versus Jews, young person versus old person, whatever it is. My guess is you can, and in law enforcement, in my experience with these kind of things, you can almost always, that's always what's happening, is somebody's being an idiot and you got to put them on notice, is that you must report it. That's a very important first step. And you're going to think, oh, but they know they're doing this to me on purpose. Everybody can see it. Everybody's talking about it. Until you report it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, we had such a terrible culture within that academy and the people running it that everybody, almost everybody, we had 9 people, and I think about 8 of us were all injured at one point during the academy, but there was one other female who reported hers. But they saw what I was going through. They're like, shit, I'm not reporting this. This is
Right.
bullshit. Like, they were making me go to the doctor once a week, which was an urgent care facility, not an orthopedic.
Hmm.
And it was just kicking the can down the road, and I was not even getting any answers.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they made it known that I could participate or I would fail. So
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I've been through this. I am a certified cop already. Like, not
Mhm.
everybody, like, there was me and 2 others, I think they were already certified. Um, I was like, I know how to run into a building and fight somebody. Like, you're not teaching me anything new today. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to teach me that's something that's agency specific to how you guys do things, fine. But making me repeat defensive tactics so you can just beat the shit out of me, like, this is non-productive at this point.
Right. Right.
And actually, I hired a work comp attorney and I told him some of those things that they were going against those orders. And he's like, yeah, well, we can't do anything about that.
Well, it's certainly be interested to know why that person said that first. Second, I don't refer any of my clients to any other attorney, whether it's just an attorney from another state where I'm not licensed or a workers' comp, unless I know that they help cops. Because I believe in the way that I work my practices, I believe I can help you in a lot of ways, whether it's figuring out how to report it, what words to use, who to put on notice. Does it need to go to your city manager if you're at a city or the person above that? Because if you believe that it's harassment, discrimination, retaliation, anything like that, they have policies that state you can jump the chain of command. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying, but this is what I do is we talk through all the ways that you can attack this problem. If you go up to a building and the front door is locked and you can't get in, but you either got to save somebody or it's an active shooter, you're going to find another way in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't care if you end up having to figure out if you can come through the roof, whatever it is, we don't stop at the first barrier. And that's the way I look at this is can I look at it from a legal perspective? Is there a PR perspective? Can I put this in front of somebody else's eyes and then the first person's gonna be like, oh shoot, no, I don't want that person to know about this. I'll fix it real quick. And so that's where, um, is it always easy? Nope. But I tell cops and first responders all the time, you did not choose easy. You can do this. And the most important that you can do is fight and stand up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna learn a whole bunch today, even more so than it's all these things that like I wish I knew back then, but now it's like, well, it's so
Yeah.
far, it's so much time has passed, so it's like, what are you gonna do now? But that's why
Well,
more people
yeah,
need to know these things.
right. I know. That's why you and I have the voices that we have now is that we can hopefully teach somebody something they didn't know or know when they should step up, and the different ways they can take care of themselves, whether it's through hiring somebody like me to be your lawyer or hiring somebody like you to figure out like, well, I've got to start making sure I'm taking care of myself because as you know, I said before we started today, like if it wasn't for working out, I'd be a crazy psychotic person. Exercise and nutrition are by far the most important thing I do for myself, and that's what you teach people. And it's through that it helps you get through those things.
Yeah,
Um, so, but yeah, you just from the get-go, I mean, I've read your book, like I know, and I knew some of your story already, but yes, if you and I had been talking at the academy phase, I would have given you many instructions.
I'm sure. So I made it through the academy. I had the surgery. I went, they officially put me on light duty at that point because I went to the desk, and was there for 6 weeks, unfortunately, because that's all the physical therapy they gave me was 6 weeks after the surgery, and then they kicked me off.
Mhm.
Thankfully, that all worked out well, and there weren't any other barriers to healing at that point. Um, Once I got through field training, I got to day shift, where I was the only female on shift. I was one of two rookies. And we had a female captain who I later found out was not a very good human. But at the time, she was my best friend.
Wait, you said female captain, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I call her Wendy in the book because she's
Right.
not a
Okay, but
captain at the
this is
end.
something I want to point out to anybody listening is you can have discrimination that's woman versus a woman,
Mhm.
100%. I have a case where, and I didn't help you with this one, and I mean, you could have been one of my clients at that phase, that second phase of issues. I have a client who had a sergeant who told her all the time, I don't want to work with women. I don't want you on my shift because you are a female. You can't do that. She also said, the girl was 21, and she said, you also, I don't believe you're too young. You shouldn't have this job. I don't know why they let you do this job. And the state she's in, that's age discrimination. From the federal perspective, it's age discrimination if you're over 40. So some states you can have age discrimination if your age is the reason why they are treating you differently. So this girl, they are dealing with that issue. They're dealing with age discrimination and gender discrimination. So I just want to stop you there and just tell the listeners that you can be discriminated against from a guy versus a guy. Like I'm not hiring you because you're a white dude and I need to put somebody not white that's not a dude on my shift. That's discrimination. So go ahead. Let's carry on.
Yeah. So I had the female captain. But within the shift, and within the agency, the standards were not applied equally shift to shift as far as expectation goes. And within my particular shift, I want to highlight this because I know it happens, and people they just say ignore it. But essentially, what I was dealing with was like high school level bullying,
Mhm.
where there was a text group thread where they were taking my pictures from Facebook and screenshotting them and drawing on them and sending them around the PD. And at the time, I'm like, this is annoying. This is uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to self-isolate myself, which didn't help. This was also during COVID. Like, we were already isolated. So I was
Mhm.
very isolated, um,
Mhm.
sitting by myself on shift for a 10-hour shift, unless you go work a call. Um, I don't know that I documented it. I don't know that I did anything about it, but it was just one of those things I knew that was happening. It was going on behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that?
So first, I would say every even crappy supervisor anybody's in a leadership role, a supervisory role, knows that makes for horrible culture.
Hmm.
And I have seen many examples where even the worst sheriffs, chiefs, majors, lieutenants, sergeants, whatever, they'll even at least give lip service to, well, you can't do this because it's bad for morale. So at the very, like, I'm always going to say this about everything is you have to report these things. You have to bring it to somebody's attention because all of it plays in, can and probably does play into, is it something that's actually illegal? What's not illegal is being a jerk, being an asshole. It's not illegal to be that. Um, but it is illegal if you're doing that to somebody because they're, I'm gonna say it over and over again. There's class. Do you fall within a certain class according to the EEOC? Is it because of your gender, your race, your national origin? I have a client who was treated differently because he was of Mexican descent, um, you know, age, religion, whatever. And you should report it because you want to say, look, and you have to take, I tell everyone this all the time. Are you gay? I mean, I went through a whole long conversation with somebody one time, and at the very, very end, I'm like, I don't know based on what you're saying, and he's white, and most people he works with are white, and all this, and I was like, and at the very end, and he said something about my partner, and I said, hold on a second, are you gay? And he said, yes, and I said, oh my gosh. Is there anybody else around you that's gay? And he said, no, I'm the only gay person in the department. Do they know you're gay? Yes, they know. Okay, all right. Now, because it might take you might not be able to see it, but there could be, if you start reporting it or writing it down, is there a bigger picture? If you take that 50,000-foot view, you might be missing something because you're living it. And I guarantee in Monica's brain, she was going, okay, well, maybe they just don't like me, or okay, well, I did kind of make that mistake that day. They were right. And okay, well, I just won't post that on Facebook anymore. Maybe I just won't post that. Like, no, screw that. Like, no. Really, like when I give conferences, when I speak at conferences or a bunch of people, I will say, raise your hand if you never made a mistake at work. Of course, nobody raises their hand. It's not that you make a mistake. It's what the others around you do about that. Are they treating it differently for you? If they are harassing and bullying you in a way that they are not doing for any other cop, because you're a female, and they don't have to do it to every female. If the guys around you are doing this, then that could be a harassment and discrimination thing.
Hmm.
You might feel like it's bullying. It might actually be illegal in the eyes of the EEOC, and we need to make sure we're putting it in writing and telling your sergeant or whomever you need to send it to. And I would put it to your sergeant and your HR. By the way, you should always report it to both. Don't do just HR or just your chain of command, because one's gonna F it up. And you want to make sure there's enough eyes on it. If you're at a smaller department and you're in a city, I would put the city manager on it too. So that just depends on where you are. You were trooper, right?
No, it's City PD.
Okay, city. So I have
Yeah.
another client who's with I think I have somebody Oklahoma State Trooper, but I know I have a Colorado State Trooper I've talked to recently. And so depending on where you are and the size of the agency, there can be lots of layers and lots of people. But certainly that's something I just talked through with everybody is, but you do need to always make sure you report it, and you report it to two people, not just chain of command and not just HR, because HR screws it up regularly because they're not trained to really do everything that they're tasked to do. I mean, handling a gender discrimination claim versus, did you file everything you're supposed to file to make sure this person gets their workers' comp paperwork done versus the person who filed FMLA leave? And oh my gosh, today there's no way they're going to get all that stuff right. So just make sure you report it. So yes, bullying. If you feel it's bullying, then really like write it down, set it to the side, come back to it in a day or two and think, okay, what do I think about this? Is this bullying, or could this be like something higher? Is it discrimination, retaliation, something like that, hostile work environment? Um, and it probably is.
Yeah. Yep. So documentation would be, and that's actually what a captain told me too, was to document it too. And I was like, okay, well, we were told early in the academy, don't put a target on your back. So that was the culture of stay quiet, don't speak
Yep.
up.
Yep.
The next major thing I dealt with was who I call the slimy sergeant in my book, who liked to toe the line with his advances. Until one day, he is a sergeant on my shift at this point, not my direct sergeant. Sends me a sexually explicit text.
Mhm.
Um, and then of course it was one of those things, awkward things where I kind of laughed it off and was like, haha, this okay, like we're not gonna respond to this type of thing. Um, so I don't know if that was I mean, it is sexual harassment in that case, but up until that point, it's very muddy because he towed the line in a way where it was not in your face. But you
Hmm.
like as a woman like what's happening, like especially when he's blowing up my phone asking me to go to a party with him type of thing, or go over to his house, go see his new house, after he had just split from his fiance, mind
Yeah.
you. So it was a dumpster fire to begin with. But what would be your take on that situation?
You ultimately, you always know if it's right or wrong. And when somebody's calling me saying, "What do you think?" My question can almost always be, and I know I know I'm right. I don't always know I'm right, but I know the answer to this question is, you know this is wrong. Like if you're getting this feeling that, man, this is not right. This is inappropriate. He's pushing it too far. He's crossing the line. I mean, I have a client I worked with out of Washington State where that similar thing kind of happened, and then before you know it, he's sitting here. He tells her he bought her a dildo for Christmas, and then the next thing he tells her is that he had a wet dream about her the night before. I mean, that can it can keep escalating. Um, and even if, as a female, you think, well, I did kind of text back every once in a while at first because I didn't want to be rude or I didn't want him to start calling me a bitch behind my back or, whatever. No, 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 no. That's like asking the rape victim if she was wearing a mini skirt when it happened.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything wrong. If this person is texting you, like on one hand, you can say, oh, that's, I'm flattered, whatever. But on the other hand, like, okay, this has got to stop. And you got to be able to say, hey, I appreciate working with you, but I think these texts are, inappropriate. We should just maintain our professional, real, I don't even know if I want to use relationship. We just stay professional. And if they get to the point where you're saying that is you can pull your sergeant to the side and say, hey, I want to let you know, or if it's a sergeant as well, you got to tell your sergeant or the lieutenant. And I know this is hard, but I can guarantee you those people will throw you under the bus if you are not protecting yourself. You have to be able to lay the groundwork of what is happening as early as you can because they're gonna come back and say, "Oh no, no, no." And listen, they're gonna come back and have all kind of BS stories and excuse me, and sir, she was blowing me up and blah 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 blah. BS, BS, BS. And unfortunately, they just are prone to listen to the dudes who are prone to listen to the dudes. Um, and I'm not even faulting them on that. It's apples and oranges, Mars and Venus. Like we just are not wired the same way. And so you got to be able to lay the foundation of your story. And I'm not saying a fiction, I'm saying of the factual story. You're going to have your own written timeline. And I would send that email to either your sergeant or the lieutenant and have a record of it and say, hey, Sergeant, just, here's a recap of what we said today. And if anything negative happens from that point forward, if things start to get worse for you or whatever, that's straight up retaliation. And that's another email. And all of it, and again, it's not always easy, and you should still do it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was addressing the fear of retaliation.
Yeah, it's legit. It's real. I mean, for me too. I finally stood up for myself with my lieutenant on SWAT team. I was in trouble all the time. And I mean, just 500 mountain climbers, another letter in my file, or another 6 months on my probation. I feel like I was three years of SWAT team, and I feel like I was on probation the whole time. And I finally went to my sergeant and said, "Look, I mean, my lieutenant of narcotics and commander of the SWAT team, same person. So we were never away from each other ever." And I said, "Look, I'm not asking for better treatment. I'm just asking for equal treatment." Because somebody had, like, one of the guys had, like, something I had gotten in trouble. I left my door open one day in the sheriff's office. I got in trouble and he put a letter in my file. One of the guys did it. Nobody said anything to him. And this was after I had 2.5 years of me enduring just constant trouble. And I didn't say who it was, but I was like, look, I just saw something, something I kind of got in trouble for one day. And I was just like, can I just have equal treatment? And then he went to the entire SWAT team and told them that I was trying to rat one of them out. So then they were calling me a rat and a snitch behind my back. So it sucks sometimes. And I do not regret saying that to my lieutenant. I regret that I didn't say more about all the disparity of how I was treated. So, for many reasons, you should speak up and report whatever's happening. But one of the main reasons to do that is because I know it will be something that eats at you and can potentially become a heavy mental health issue for years. I was pissed off at my whole department for more than a decade. Just middle fingers to all of you all the time, like screw you this way, upside, whatever. Until I finally realized that I was the one that was holding on to that. And that became something I had to talk about with my therapist over and over and over again. Because I can't do anything about them. I can't change them. And so do it for, in so many ways, you're doing this for you. Whether you quote unquote win. I had a new client and she kept saying, "Well, but what are my odds of winning? What are my odds of winning?" And I just kept saying, we've got to talk about what you mean by winning because you're sitting here on this phone with me. We're now have had 2 solid hours of phone calls and you're crying like because this is just you feel like it's destroying you. And part of winning for me is that I can get you to the point where they don't put you into a crying fetal position anymore. And that's what you're fighting back against. There is nothing wrong with you. That's what she kept saying. I did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Like, nope, you didn't. It's not about a mistake you make. It's you've got to be able to control what you can control, which is you can control you and you can control the amount of what you are doing about it. So no matter how hard it will be, it is imperative that you do it for yourself. And back to you. I mean, you were scared, certainly having a target on your back or it getting worse. Yeah, all those things. But I mean, you and I both, we ended up leaving
Yep.
and it sucked.
Yep. The crying in the fetal position happened too.
Yeah, me too.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
And, um, so you got into it a little bit as far as the inconsistencies of the guys would do something, it wouldn't be addressed. You would do something, it would be lit up. And that's exactly what happened in my final internal affairs investigation. That was basically the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Mhm.
I had done something that night that was common practice, that was well accepted, that people often even abused as far as their time on shift, and it was labeled as dereliction of duty
Mhm.
and up to termination. When a month before, someone else had done the exact same thing, and it was an undocumented counseling, if you will. Like they got talked to, said, "Hey, don't do it again," and there was no internal affairs, like no nothing.
Yeah.
So to me, that was targeting.
Mhm.
Um, I hired, I had an FOP rep, I hired an attorney, and he's a well-known attorney around here that has been in the media for officer-involved shootings and things like that. Like he's done his fair bit. But ultimately, I was addressed with, well, do I report this other people doing this and it not being handled the same thing? Like, do I start dragging more people into this with me under the bus when at the time they hadn't done anything to me? Sadly enough, some of those people who I chose not to touch in that whole thing ended up like basically leaving me for
Mhm.
after that. Um, so I mean, how did you handle that, or would you have done anything different in internal affairs? I basically just said, get the investigation done. I'm going to sign my letter. I'm going to give you my 2 weeks and say goodbye because this
Yeah.
is not worth me staying any longer.
Um, Gosh, okay. So much to unpack here. One of the things that I have been trying to get out more and more and more lately, which I hope if anybody's listening, they get to this point in the conversation. Okay, for the people who are listening, not if people are listening,
Yes.
that they get to this point in the conversation to say this. I am not your union lawyer, and your union lawyer is not me. It is two very different things. I regularly get clients who are in FOP or PBA or some other local or state version of that. I don't care if you have a CBA. I don't care. In Texas, since we have what they're called civil service agreements, that's kind of basically just a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. They don't do employment law. They are going to guide and assist you when you are being investigated to best serve you. They know the policies. They know like what they, the range of what your punishment can be, and try to best advise you on what you should say yes or no to. That is very different than, nor will they help with, is it discriminatory that they are doing this to you? Like, okay, by the letter of the law, did you make a mistake? Well, maybe you did. But my job is then to come and say, oh, no, no, no. Au contraire, because I can give you 15 examples, and I would give names and specifics to say, here's 15 times you let this happen that I know of in the last month, 6 months, year. And then you decide to throw the book at this person. And oh, isn't it convenient for me that those are all dudes and the only person who's getting thrown under the bus is the female? Like somebody, my job is to come in and say, hey, agency, you need to come take a look at this spotlight I'm pointing on this because you're making a mistake. And we start very simple with just stop it. Stop it. Investigation's done. This needs to be unfounded. Even if it goes in your file, it should say unfounded. Um, Worst case, if they've demoted you, put her back. If you've lost money, give them the money back. If they've terminated you, do you want to be reinstated? I mean, all these things that we can ask for. Um, but also, one of these is you didn't want to put people in there. And I'd say all the time, it's not tattletaling. But if you don't specifically tell them, because you're going to report it in two ways, if you don't specifically tell them, you can't get away with this. And here's exactly what I mean about why you can't get away with this. Because do they know? Sure. And every single one of us are sitting around there thinking, but everybody knows this. Everybody knows this is what everybody does. You're saying like, somebody's going to say something for me. Somebody's going to speak up for me. No, they won't.
Hmm.
The part that you said about how your teammates, your coworkers leave you just high and dry, it always happens. Does that legitimately mean that they don't care about you? No. It legitimately means that's just not what people do. It's just so very rare that somebody's going to stick their neck out and say, "Hey, sorry, you can't do that to her. That's not right." I had after I quit, like, after that, when I left the SWAT team, I went into my captain's office and said, I want off SWAT team and narcotics today, and I want day shift. And like to get day shift, usually that's a seniority thing.
Hmm.
I've been a cop for about 4 years, so I'm sure there were people more senior than me trying to get there. He looked at me and he said, You got it. Because he knew. He knew that I could tell you all these reasons why I need to be there, or you could just give it to me. And he did. I started day shift the next week. I didn't even remember how to do like a death report at that point. Like I had none of the paperwork anymore. They really should have given me like a week of training again. I didn't remember it. But anyway, the point being, you have, after that, about a week later, one of my SWAT team guys came up to me. I also want to say, like to qualify this, like we competed in an international SWAT team competition. I beat out two-thirds of my own SWAT team to make the competition team. I was the six-person teams. There were 74 to 76 teams. I was one of three women there. We placed in the top 20 at least every year with me on the team. So I feel like I had shown my SWAT team that I was physically capable of doing the job.
Yeah.
One of the guys came up to me after and says, Oh, Bridget, I just want to let you know, I think you got a raw deal. And I was furious. Like what he said to me hurt me so bad because it meant he was sitting in the room knowing what they were doing to me, what they were saying about me, and he didn't do a damn thing about it.
Yep.
And that was so hurtful. And it ties back into it's just not what people do. You have to do this for yourself. So 100% you need to put, I don't care if you are in the middle of an internal affairs investigation. I've had clients call me I was just started. So they call me and say, "Look, I know I'm going to get fired, but I don't know what to do." And I said, one of the things I said to her is like, "You need to email your city manager because it was a smaller department and ask to speak with her." The city manager, because it was about the chief, she had complained to HR about the chief. The chief ended up investigating her for gossiping, and then he instructed them to investigate her for internal affairs for gossiping. And then he made the decision to terminate her when her complaint to HR was about him for sexual harassment. she called the city manager. City manager said, I'm aware that there's an internal affairs investigation ongoing. I will not talk to you. Like, okay, but you are the boss of the chiefs. You are the chain of command. Like,
Yeah.
the next step is to go to the city commissioners. So, uh, and there sued them. So that lawsuit's ongoing. Anyway, you have to do it for yourself. You have to give examples. You cannot give generalities. I just have, you can't see the front of it, but this is a 97-page statement. This is front and back, by the way. Hopefully, you didn't see who that was. Um, this is a 97-page document that I just got from a client of everything that's happened to her in the last couple years. And my response back to her in all of these 97 pages, you didn't give enough specifics. You didn't state when this happened to me. Like here's the ways that this guy did it. Did I got written up for mishandling a gun without gloves on? Okay. And you demoted me. You took away special assignment. I lost money from it. Well, then a guy did the exact same thing a month later and you did nothing to him. That needs to be in the statement.
Yeah.
Everything that you did that they threw you under the bus and then they did not do it to anybody else, that is the statement. It's not your mistake. Who gives a shit? Everybody makes mistakes. You can say, you're right. You know what? If you want to put that in my file, that I didn't follow that policy to the T, fine. But let me tell you right now, I'm gonna give you 15 names, approximate dates, and examples of when you didn't do this. This is harassment. This is discrimination. This is a hostile work environment. Throw retaliation there if that's happening too. But you have to put them on notice. You have to give them the specifics of what their officers are doing that is against the law, federal law. And oh, by the way, because we all work for government employers, this is a DOJ issue. The DOJ puts their eyes on every case involving a government actor. And I don't know if any of you ever had cases where you're working like state courses versus federal court. I always really wanted my narcotics investigations to get to federal court because you are screwed once
Yeah.
you're a defendant and compared to state. I feel like it's not that you have more rights necessarily. It's just a lot easier to deal with things in state court. In federal court, you are screwed because those judges are just tougher. They hold it. So, point being, there's a lot of, and I have no problem when I get my clients and I send a demand letter to the employer saying, and oh, by the way, I will be putting the DOJ on notice of this claim. Because then they do things like consent decrees. They do things like look at how many other claims has this department had. Because that stuff matters. I have another case with a small East Texas town. They've already lost one race discrimination lawsuit. I have another one pending, not a lawsuit, but we're starting it. They know, they know, and the DOJ knows. So those things matter, and that's why you got to be able to stand up for yourself. You've got to give them specifics, and then when it comes to somebody like me getting involved, um, you want to make sure that like I said, I would say find somebody who knows working with government defendants or somebody who knows working with cops and police departments because it's that kind of stuff that really matters in trying to get you back to where you want to be, which is you just want to be a cop. You just want to do your job and have them leave you alone. But I just want to say one more time about the union thing. Do not, please do not. And if you want something for free, follow my Instagram page, sign up for my newsletters where I talk about this a lot. Um, do not just rely on your union rep or even your union attorney to advise on employment law issues like harassment and discrimination because they are not the ones that would file that for you. They're not the ones, they don't do that kind of work. And unfortunately, sometimes they give really bad advice. Um, I am not anti-union. I was in a union, if for no other reason, to get criminal defense if ever I got, a complaint or heaven forbid an indictment. So I'm not anti-union. And I work with a lot of union reps and attorneys across the country. Because I think they all are, for the most part, their heart's in the right place. But you must get the right kind of advice.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I see you post that a lot, and that's one thing too that you don't even think about. You're like, oh, it's an attorney, like they can help me because it's
Nope.
just a blanketed attorney and it's who we pay for every month. Like this is
Yeah.
what our dues are going to, so therefore they should be the solution. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I definitely never knew that. Wish I would have known that.
It's also what more and more I'm doing work with associations to sort of boost or bolster the legal help that their officers can get
Yeah. Yeah,
because of
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we have a couple more minutes left. What I would like to wrap with, and this is not from my personal experience, but unfortunately, I hear this a lot when women come to me just as a resource asking for help. And that's everything surrounding pregnancy rights.
Yeah.
And so I would love to get maybe a high level overview of what should be expected as far as pregnancy rights, FMLA leave, kind of just what should be afforded to them postpartum and return, and really what they can and can't do around pregnancy.
Yeah. Um, so relatively new is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act.
Mm.
Um, in the past, if you were pregnant and you notify your department that you're pregnant, um, and let me just say this, I'll try not to make this last too long. Please, please tell them you're pregnant. Please do not hide it. Please do not, because you're afraid, and maybe you do that because, like, if I was on SWAT team, of course I would have been afraid that they wouldn't put me back on the team. And also, I'm a mom, I have 3 kids. I'm not the same person I was before those kids. And your life changes in ways you just will never expect. And while you might miss the status or whatever of being on SWAT, you might not want to go back to SWAT because you want to come home to those babies. I can
Yeah.
promise you that. If you would have told me 14 years ago before I had my first kid, 14 and a half, that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, or like 3 years ago that I quit the law firm where I was making the money I was making to do my own thing. And a big reason for that was so that I could be available for my kids in the short amount of time that I had them home in the house. I would have told you you're nuts. Like, no way. I'm going to work. I've worked too hard for this. I'm going to make this money. There's no way I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And like now I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to. Yes, I walked away from a lot of money at the time because, so the point being, please tell them you're pregnant. The number of women that I have heard from who've said, I hid it until I was 7 months pregnant. Just that one, I hid it until I was 7 months pregnant. And I wanted to cry when she told me that because are you really going to risk losing your baby? I mean, that's really what you're doing. You never know what's going to happen when you go to work.
Hmm.
It was a cop shot a couple weeks. I mean, I know it happens all the time, but there was a cop shot a couple weeks ago, and I feel like it was in Texas, but unfortunately, it just happens too much, and I can't remember. But he was just responding to a call. Oh, it's the one where he was shot from CVS. He was shot from a CVS. The guy ambushed him because he propped up in a CVS. Anyway,
Yeah.
like it's just like a regular call. You just show
Yeah.
up, you're walking up, and from a building, like, yeah, that could happen to you at any time. Think about all these cops listening. Think about all the times you've gotten out of your patrol car to walk up to wherever you were dispatched to. Anytime. And I worked in a rural county. I remember one time, well, we've all had it, I'm sure, like you get a call and you're driving up and you're like, man, I got a bad feeling about this. I pulled up and it was 2 trailers kind of catty next to each other. It was one of those nights where it was pitch black. There was no moon. And I actually slowed down to make sure because we were by ourselves in the car. I actually slowed down for the one who was just person dispatched with me to be there. And we both like, and it wasn't just me as a chick. We both like quickly said, okay, what's our plan? Like, which way are you coming from? Which way I'm coming from? Because they just something about that scene, I can still get the chills from it. Like they could have been anywhere in the woods, and I just had that feeling like we could be
Yeah.
ambushed. So the point being, don't do it. You must report it. Okay, and then what happens? Well, then they're going to put you on light duty. They're going to, if take you out of harm's way, they should. Can they take away your badge and your gun? Yes, they can. Because if you can't fulfill the duties of the job, nor do they want to intentionally be putting you in harm's way, if you're carrying a badge and a gun, then you are advertising to the world that I will take action on your behalf, because that's what we're assigned to do. And you have to be able to do that. Well, no sheriff or chief or whomever wants to send you out there to go do that and be shot when nobody wants to do that for anybody that's not pregnant, especially if you're pregnant. So just be ready. You're going to get a temporary assignment. Now, what they can't do They can't, here's an example. A girl called me one time, said, they just told me that I have to go home without pay until I have the baby. I'm like, why? What happened? She's like, well, they wanted me to do this training. Every state has some like once a year you got to do such and such training. Usually it has to do with like active shooter or fighting and running or something like that. Well, this was like they like you got to do this right now. And she's like, "Well, no, I don't have to do it until next year. Like I'll be back from maternity leave before and she'll have like 5 months to spare before when I come back from maternity leave, I'll still have 5 more months. I'll do it when I come back." And then that sergeant mistakenly said, "Well, you need to get me a doctor's letter if you're not going to do this training." Number one, they cannot ask for a doctor's letter if you're pregnant. That's what the PWFA did for you. Before, they could have asked for a letter. They cannot ask you for a letter, period. They cannot ask for a letter saying, we need a letter from a doctor saying you're pregnant. Nope, they cannot do that. So then they got this doctor letter, and then they came back to her and said, well, you can no longer fulfill the essential functions of the job, so you can't work for us. We're not going to pay you at all until you come back from maternity leave. So it was going to, instead of her being like 8 to 12 weeks without pay on maternity leave, she was going to be like 6 months. Like I think she was 3 or 4 weeks, 4 months pregnant at the time. I picked up the phone right away, called their attorney, and said, you understand this is a violation of the PWFA, right? And he goes, well, I haven't really seen the letter. I said, I'll forward it to you. I forwarded the letter. He called me back. It's like, she went to back to work that next week. And I got her the 2 days pay that they didn't pay her while she went home for those 2 days. Anyway, they cannot ask you for a doctor letter. They cannot force you to go home without pay. Now, if you're in a really, really small department, um, and you being off the road or whatever puts them like it's undue hardship and they've got to hire somebody to fulfill that role, maybe they'll say, look, we don't have the money to pay two people, but I don't care. If they say that to you, please call me so that we can talk through what the circumstances are so that if need be, I'll tell you what to say and you can like, look, okay, you don't want to hire me, but at least say this, call them back and say, no, XYZ. And so, uh, it used to be also that you would compare it to how are they treating like anybody else on light duty? What type of assignment are they giving them? Is it the evidence room? Is it answering the phones at the front, the non-emergency line? Do they put you in dispatch or whatever? But now it's not that. They do not treat you, compare you to it's ADA. It used to be like an ADA thing. They don't do that at all. It's straight up. It's a much higher standard. Like they can get in trouble basically a lot quicker. If you feel like you're being asked to do things like a job assignment that haven't given anybody else, docking you pay in any way, certainly asking you for some type of doctor's letter, absolutely not. They will not get away with that, most likely. And there's no certain, I can't tell you 100% because it's the law. But anyway, you have a lot of rights, basically, as a pregnant woman. You certainly need to know your maternity leave policy. If there's no maternity leave policy, which definitely happens, there's standards for that, and you should just go find the one you like and submit it to them and say, here's the maternity policy I recommend. This is what I will go by. If they don't respond to you, that's what you go by. Their silence is submission. So you can also ask for whatever you want. I tell people this all the time. Just because it doesn't mention it in the maternity leave policy, you can ask for what you want. And here's what I always say. What's the worst case scenario if you ask for something?
I say no.
Right. Okay, great. And then what do? You respond in a very professional manner and say, "Thank you so much. Could you tell me why?" Get them to commit to why. Because the sketchier their why is, the higher the chances are that's illegal. And something that you can put people on notice of. You get to be pregnant, it's a very short window. It feels like forever. I know. It happened. I did it 3 times. And maternity leave feels like forever, especially your first one. And then coming back and readjusting to life, especially with your first, is really hard. So ask for what you want. If you're in a bigger department, maybe they will let you ease back into it. Maybe they will let you go half time. I'm not, if it's never happened before, I'm not saying it will. But again, worst case scenario is you can ask for it. If you are at a big department and if you have a women's association within your department, like the Dallas Police Women's Association has their own, Dallas Police Officers Association, but then they have the women have their own, and they have a seat at the table, and they can ask for what they want. They don't get it all, but one of the things they're working on is free childcare for all of their officers. That's a bigger department. They can do that.
Yeah.
So call me if you want ideas for that kind of stuff too. I'm a big advocate for asking for what you want, obviously. And, um, if you have an association, have them call me and I can talk through lots of ways that they could be advocates for you. Um, because anytime they can concentrate an issue, if you like, I take this cup of water, I fill it up, and I put 1 drop of orange juice in it, which is kind of like how I like my mimosas, by the way. Um, but if you fill it up with water and you put 1 drop of orange juice in it, you're like, that's not orange juice, that's just gross. But the more drops they can put on it, and I'm the one offering up this cup for you, the more concentrated it is, the more they're like, oh wow, that's legit orange juice. Oh my gosh, that's very strong. Like you don't need 100 people at the table talking about something. You need one person at the table speaking for 100 of you. And that's the one giving the examples. And that oftentimes can have a less, for lack of a better way to say it, retaliatory effect. That when you have one speaking for many and you're doing it in as a professional manner as and but consistently consistent about it,
Yeah.
as you end up creating change. Um, women, sir, no matter who you see on social media saying otherwise, and we all know who I'm talking about, um, no matter what you hear people saying on social media about women's role in law enforcement, women do serve a vital role in law enforcement. It is vital to every person in your community. Now, do we all do the job the same way? No. Brian on SWAT team, who is an ex-Marine, who is the physical definition of a jarhead, of course he and I did the job differently. Was I the one that carried in the however many pounds of battering ram into the SWAT, when we entered a home? No. But was I also a very important, I thought, did I serve a vital role on that SWAT team? Of course.
Yep.
Everybody has different skill sets, and women have a very important skill set for the community.
Mhm.
And sometimes the agencies need to get out of their own way and see that.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I want to
you're
make
so
sure you can
welcome.
head out on time since you have the rest of your day to get to. Um,
Yeah.
how can people contact and connect with you?
So as I said, well, I also have to say something. I no longer do free phone calls
Oh,
because,
my bad.
well, that's
I
okay. I
misquoted
used
that.
to. No, I used to. I did for a long time, but I just had to change it because the just had to change it. But I do offer a lot of free information. So Instagram, I post a lot. My newsletter I send out once a month where I have this like a conglomeration of like the things that I focus on for the month and examples of the things that I hear and deal with regularly. So sign up for the newsletter. I call it a tactical field guide. So like I really look at it as like a training for you to do on a regular basis because what I want is for you as soon as something happens to you, just like if you train with your firearm over and over and over again so that if your gun jams, you know how to clean it fix it without thinking about it because you're not going to be able to think about it when you're in a gunfight.
Hmm.
I want you to be able to react right away for yourself if something happens to you at work because I want your gut to be, no way, I got to do something about this. I don't want you to suffer in silence. Suffering in silence leads to too many bad things. The best bad thing would be you quit the job. The worst bad thing is, and I've had too many clients who've attempted suicide.
Yeah.
Um, and you are never the problem, period. Even if law enforcement is not the job for you, you are not the problem. Do not think that if you eliminate yourself, you solve. No. So, I want you to be ready to react and respond. So, please sign up for the newsletter because like you don't need me all the time, and hopefully you'll never need me. But someday you might, and I want you to know how to react quickly, but also just know that I'm here if you need the help. So, my business, Lady Law Shield. Um, if you need to book a call with me, my website, ladylawshield.com. You can find the link to sign up for the newsletter, and Instagram. But just follow along so that you can be ready for when you need to react.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure all of that gets linked for you too so people can easily find you.
Yep.
Thanks again so much for joining us. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I learned something. I hope this was helpful for everybody else who's listening to this. And it's a good message to stand up for yourself, do it for you, and fight back because you deserve it.
Yes.
So, thank you, Bridget.
Welcome.